श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सगम गुणाधानितं तं श्रीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सह ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन्निति नामे श्री सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी विचारणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत वेदांत श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे राम हरे हरे सर्वशास्त्रार्थी पीयूष सर्ववेदिक सत्फल सर्वसिद्धांत रत्नाढ्य सर्वलोकैकत्रिप्रद सर्वभागवत प्राण श्रीमद्भागवत प्रभो कलिध्वांतोदितादित्य श्री कृष्ण परिवर्तित परमानंद पाठाय प्रेमवश्यक्षराय ते सर्वदा सर्वसेव्या श्री कृष्णाय नमस्ते मदेक बंधो मत्संगिन मद्गुरो मन्महाधर्म मनिस्तारक मद्भाग्य मतानंद नमस्ते साधु साधु दादायि अतिनीचोच्चताकर हान मुंच कदाचिन मां प्रेमणा हृत्कंठयो स्फुर ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय okay text 9 I think I read the verse the translation and Sararth Darshini so I'll read the purport the word separatist must be understood carefully. The Sanskrit words in this connection are भिन्न दृक् and पृथक भावः separate भिन्न दृक् whose vision is separate we're also separate. A separatist is one who sees his interest as separate from that of the Supreme Lord. Mixed devotees or devotees in the modes of passion and ignorance think that the interest of the Supreme Lord is supplying the orders of the devotee. The interest of such devotees is to draw from the Lord as much as possible for their sense gratification. This is a separatist mentality. Actually, pure devotion is explained in the previous chapter. The mind of the Supreme Lord and the mind of the devotee should be dovetailed. A devotee does not wish anything but to execute the desire of the Supreme. That is oneness. When the devotee has an interest or will different from the interest of the Supreme Lord, his mentality is that of a separatist. When the so-called devotee desires material enjoyment without reference to the interest of the Supreme Lord, or he wants to become famous or opulent by utilizing the mercy or grace of the Supreme Lord, he is in the mode of passion. Yashaha Aishwaryam Evava. So, if he wants sense enjoyment, or he wants reputation, or he wants opulence, extraordinary opulence, not just ordinary sense enjoyment, all of that comes within Tamasika Bhakti Yoga. Mayavadis, however, interpret this word separatist in a different way. They say that while worshipping the Lord, one should think himself one with the Supreme Lord. This is another adulterated form of devotion within the modes of material nature. The conception that the living entity is one with the Supreme is in the mode of ignorance. Oneness is actually based on oneness of interest. A pure devotee has no interest but to act on behalf of the Supreme Lord. When one has even a tinge of personal interest, his devotion is mixed with the three modes of material nature. Text 10. कर्म निर्हारमुद्दिश्य परस्मिन् वा तदर्पणम् यचेद्यष्टव्यम् इति वा पृथक् भावस्य सात्विकः. When a devotee worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead and offers the results of his activities in order to free himself from the inebrities, from the defects of fruitive activities, the intoxicating effects of fruitive activities, his devotion is in the mode of goodness. कर्म निर्हारम कर्म क्षयम उद्देश्य यो यजे यस्य भक्तेः कर्मक्षये एव प्रयोजनम् इत्यर्थः. So that form of Vishnu Bhakti in which destruction of karmic reactions is the goal is referred to here. परस्मिन् परमेश्वरे तदर्पणं तस्य कर्मणः अर्पणं यत्र तद् यथा स्यात् तथा यः यजेत् स्वधर्मार्पणं प्रचुरां श्रवणादिभक्तिं यः कुर्यात् इत्यर्थः. That sort of devotion service in which he offers the activities to the Supreme Lord. In other words, in his worship of the Supreme Lord, he is engaging in Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasim, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. But most of his time goes in performing his material Swadharma to please the Supreme Lord with only the desire for purification of the mind. That is called Swadharma Arpana. यष्टव्यम सर्वेषां नित्य विधि प्राप्तत्वेन अवश्यमेव कर्तव्यम स्वाश्रम कर्म वत् तद्यजनम् इति बुद्ध्या एव स्वाश्रम धर्म आचरण पूर्वकं यः यजेत् पृथक् भावः भक्तेः पृथक् भूते मोक्षे भावः अभिप्रायः यस्य सः. यष्टव्यम इति, Lord Vishnu must be worshipped by everyone because it is an eternal injunction that cannot be violated by anyone. Therefore, everybody must engage in devotion service to Lord Vishnu, just as everybody who wants to progress, either materially or spiritually, must execute his ashrama dharma. Like one has to execute his, man has to execute his common duties, his varna dharma, ashrama dharma. Like women have to execute their stri dharma, otherwise they cannot progress materially or spiritually over the lifetimes. Similarly, worship of Lord Vishnu is meant to be executed by everyone if he wants to progress. This idea is the separatist mentality. Now, of course, this worship of the Supreme Lord is preceded by carrying out the duties of his own ashrama and so on, his material duties. And that takes most of the time. So this is the separatist form of devotion. This is also a separatist form of devotion service. Now here, the goal is not bhakti, Vishnu bhakti itself. The goal is liberation. Therefore, it is considered to be another form of separatist engagement in Vishnu bhakti. Evam esham navavidha eva sakamaha yatha uttara adhikya gyeya. So in this way, we have the 9 types of bhakti. All of these are with the desire to fulfill one's own personal ambitions. Each later one is superior to the earlier one. Rajasika Vishnu Bhakti is superior to Tamasika Vishnu Bhakti. Sattvika Vishnu Bhakti is superior to Rajasika Vishnu Bhakti. Tatra Sattviki Bhakti hi tasya jnanam janayati tatrapi jnanasya guna bhave स्वप्राधान्ये ज्ञानमिश्र अभिधाना शांतिरतिम निर्गुणाम एव उत्पादयति. Now here, when it comes to Sattviki Bhakti, for some, it generates jnana. Even then, jnana is subordinate. And if that is the case, then this kind of bhakti would be referred to as Jnana Mishra Bhakti. That would generate Shantarati, which is transcendental. ज्ञानस्य प्राधान्ये स्वयं तदंगभूता तो सायुज्य मुक्तिमेव कस्यचित् अश्वमेधादि सफल कर्मार्पणवती भक्तिः न तु कर्मार्पणमयी सुखैश्वर्यमयं सालोक्यमोक्षं निष्फलकर्म अर्पणवती तु शान्तिरतिं राजस्या तामस्याश्च भक्तेः फलप्राप्तो सत्यां भक्ति अभावे प्रायः तत्तत् फलमेव फलं भक्तिमहिम्ना किंचित अधिकमपि फलप्राप्तो सत्यामपि कस्यचित् भक्तिसत्त्वे तु सत्यं दिशत्यर्चितम् अर्चितो नृणाम् इत्यादि दृष्ट्या सापि काले निर्गुणा एव स्यादिति। When jnana is predominant, then jnana becomes an aspect of this bhakti, and it would lead to Sayujya Mukti. Yes, it would lead to Sayujya Mukti. And then for some who offer the activity along with the results of Ashwamedha and other such exalted activities, exalted fruitive activities, in that kind of devotional service, न तो कर्मार्पणमयी सुखैश्वर्यमयं सालोक्यमोक्षं निष्फलकर्मार्पणवती. This is said to be some kind of engagement of karmarpana, but not of the normal type, and therefore it leads to salokya moksha, salokya mukti. It doesn't lead to sayujya mukti. Which kind of salokya moksha? This is the one that is predominated by happiness and opulence. This is not predominated by the sense of selfless affection for the Supreme Lord. Nishphala karmarpanavati tu shantiratam, whereas if one has no desire for any material benefit and is offering his activities, material activities to the Supreme Lord, then that will lead to shantarati. Shantirati is same as shantarati. Rajasya tamasyasya bhaktehe palapraptau satya. When one attains the results of Rajasic Bhakti and Tamasic Bhakti, when Bhakti is absent, then those very results are considered the results of those forms of Bhakti. If by the glory of Vishnu Bhakti, there is some exaltation of that nature of the result. For some, because of the presence of Bhakti, in line with text 5.19.28, it is converted into Nirguna Bhakti over time. So then it is understood from Tamasic Bhakti, one progresses to Rajasic Bhakti, then to Sattvic Bhakti, and then to Nirguna Bhakti. Now, obviously, this will only take place if one surrenders to superior devotees through the force of Sadhu Sangha. The Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras, along with the Brahmacharis, Grihasthas, Vanaprasthas, and Sannyasis, are members of the 8 divisions of Varnas and Ashramas, and they have their respective duties to perform for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When such activities are performed and the results are offered to the Supreme Lord, they are called karmarpanam. Duties are performed for the satisfaction of the Lord. If there is any inebriety or fault, it is atoned for by this offering process. But if this offering process is in the mode of goodness rather than in pure devotion, then the interest is different. The 4 ashramas and the 4 varnas act for some benefit in accordance with their personal interests. Therefore, such activities are in the mode of goodness. They cannot be counted in the category of Pure devotion. Pure devotional service, as described by Rupa Goswami, is free from all material desires. Anyabhilashita shunyam. There can be no excuse for personal or material interest. Devotional activities should be transcendental to fruitive activities and empiric philosophical speculation. Pure devotional service is transcendental to all material qualities. Devotional service in the modes of ignorance, passion, and goodness can be divided into 81 categories. There are different devotional activities such as hearing, chanting, remembering, worshipping, offering prayer, rendering service, and surrendering everything. And each of them can be divided into 3 qualitative categories. There is hearing in the mode of passion, in the mode of ignorance, and in the mode of goodness. Similarly, there is chanting of the mode of ignorance, passion, and goodness, etc. 3 multiplied by 9 equals 27, and when again multiplied by 3, it becomes 81. One has to transcend all such mixed materialistic devotion service in order to reach the standard of pure devotion service as explained in the next verses. Texts 11 to 12. Madgunashtimatrena Mayi Sarvaguhashaye Manogatir Avichinna Yatha Gangam Asum Bhutau Lakshanam Bhakti Yogasya Nirgunasya Hyudahritam Mahaitu Yavyavahita Ya Bhakti Purushottame. The manifestation of unadulterated devotional service is exhibited when one's mind is at once attracted to hearing the transcendental name and qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is residing in everyone's heart. Just as the water of the Ganges flows naturally down towards the ocean, such devotional ecstasy, uninterrupted by any material condition, flows towards the Supreme Lord. Devanam gunalinganam ityatra lakshitameva nirgunam bhaktim sukhabodhartam punarlakshayati. Nirguna Bhakti has already been defined in 3.25.32. But to help the reader understand it easily, it is again being defined. Mad guna shravanam matrena eva mayeva sarvaguha ashaye sarvantah karnavartitvena sukadhyeya murtau Shri Purushottame manasah gatihi avichinnaha bhavati. Simply by hearing about my transcendental qualities, because I reside within the innermost recesses of everyone's minds, my form is easy to meditate upon. I am Sri Purushottama. And the mind of the meditator is focused on me alone without any distraction. Avichinna. Yatha ambudhau gangambhasah gatihi iti hetoha. Edadarthameva bhakti yogasya lakshanam udahritam iti bhalitah artha. Just as the movement of the waters of the Ganges towards the ocean. So, in conclusion, this is nothing but a definition of bhakti. Ambudhina swallaharibihi paravartitasya api ambasah yatha ambadao eva gatihi तथा मयि अपि पारमेष्ट्य साष्टि सालोक्यादि फलैः प्रलोभितस्य अपि तस्य मयि एव गतिरिति. Even when the waves of the waters of the Ganges that is moving towards the ocean, even because of when it comes and crashes into the ocean, then because of the ocean, the waves of the Ganga push Ganga back. Despite that, it will only move towards the ocean. Similarly, when such the devotee of this description, when his mind is fixed on me, even when I tempt this devotee with the post of Brahma, with Sashti, Salokya, Sarupya, Samikya, and so on, still He is not bothered. He is only interested in pleasing me. एवं च भक्तमनसः गङ्गाजलदृष्टान्तेन द्रौत्य शैत्य पावित्र्य जगत्पूज्यत्व आदीनि उक्तानि. Here, the mind of such a devotee is being described with reference to the waters of the Ganges. So from this it is understood that the mind of such a devotee moves so fast towards the Supreme Lord like the Ganga. It is cool like the Ganga. It is pure like the Ganga. It is worthy of being worshipped by the entire world like the Ganga, and so on. तदेव लक्षणं किम् इति अपेक्षायामः अहैतुकी हेतुः कारणं फल अंतर अपि सन्ति हि च तद्रहिता स्वप्रकाशवत् स्वतः फलरूपत्वाच्च न इयं ज्ञानयोगादिवत् इति भावः. Now, what is the identifying characteristic of this form of bhakti? Anticipating this, he says, ahaitukya vyavahita ya bhakti purushottame. Ahaituki is derived from the word hetu. Hetu means reason. A reason itself means pursuit of some result other than bhakti. So this form of bhakti is devoid of that. So it has no motive. Hetuhu becomes haituka, which becomes haituki, which becomes ahaituki. This is because bhakti in its pure form is self-revealing. It is also its own result. So this process is not like jnana, yoga and other such processes. Sadhu sangha prem noho tu prathama dvadasha bhumikatvad natayohu hetutva phalatve vasutaha iti pratamaskandeva vyakhyatam. Sadhu sangha is the first stage. Prema is the 12th stage. Between them, factually speaking, you cannot say one is the cause and the other is the effect. This has already been explained in the commentary to the first canto. Avyavahita. Jnana karmadi vyavadhana shunya ya bhakti sa eva nirguna ityartha. Avyavahita means not separated. Not separated means it does not have any interruption in the form of jnana, karma and so on. That form of bhakti is what is referred to as nirguna bhakti. Bhaktehe aspada shraddha nivasa sukha adinam api nirgunatvam. Nirguno madapashrayah iti matsevayam tu nirgunam iti nirgunam madapashrayam iti ekadasha skandad yeyam. And the residence of that kind of bhakti, the faith of that kind of bhakti, the place where that kind of bhakti is executed, the sort of happiness that one experiences when one executes that kind of bhakti, all of that is nirguna. This we know from 11th canto, chapter 25, where very elaborately different features of this world have been described in terms of this is sattvic, this is rajasic, this is tamasic, and this is transcendental, this is beyond the modes of material nature. So when Lord Krishna tells Uddhava in this chapter that this is beyond the modes of material nature, you'll see that is directly related to this form of nirguna bhakti. Question.
So, from sadhu sangha to prema, we generally think that the cause-effect relation is there, like because of sadhu sangha, then the next step comes the mercy of sadhus, the service to sadhu, and then shraddha. So, cause-effect is not there too.
That is apparently, it is all within the process of bhakti itself. Bhakti itself includes sadhu sangha, nama kirtan, bhagavad shravan, mathrava, srimurti, shraddha, sevan. It includes avoidance of offenses. It includes executing certain preliminaries. It includes this one complete package. I simply have to follow what is within that package with nothing from outside that package. Then automatically all of these comes up. Satam kripa, mahatseva, shraddha, guru padashraya, bhajaneshi, swaha, everything comes.
Yes, true. So we can say that all causes and effects, they are all bhakti only. So cause is equal to effect, like that.
Yeah, bhaktiya sanjataya bhaktiya. Bhakti which is caused by bhakti itself.
Yes.
Okay. The basic principle of this unadulterated pure devotion service is love of God. Mad guna shruti matrena means just after hearing about the transcendental qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These qualities are called nirguna. The Supreme Lord is uncontaminated by the modes of material nature. Therefore, he is attractive to the pure devotee. There is no need to practice meditation to attain such attraction. The pure devotee is already in the transcendental stage, and the affinity between him and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is natural and is compared to the Ganges water flowing towards the sea. The flow of the Ganges water cannot be stopped by any condition. Similarly, a pure devotee's attraction for the transcendental name, form, and pastimes of the Supreme Godhead cannot be stopped by any material condition. The word avichinna, without interruptions, is very important in this connection. No material condition can stop the flow of the devotion service of a pure devotee. The word ahaituki means without reason. A pure devotee does not render loving service to the personality of God for any cause or for any benefit, material or spiritual. This is the first symptom of unalloyed devotion. Anyabhilashita shunyam. He has no desire to fulfill by rendering devotion service. It means he has no extraneous desire. Such devotion service is meant for the Purushottama, the Supreme Personality, and not for anyone else. Sometimes pseudo devotees show devotion to many demigods, thinking the forms of the demigods to be the same as the Supreme Personality of God is form. It is specifically mentioned herein, however, that bhakti devotion service is meant only for the Supreme Personality of God, Narayana, Vishnu, or Krishna, not for anyone else. Avyavahita means without cessation. A pure devotee must engage in the service of the Lord 24 hours a day without cessation. His life is so molded that at every minute and every second he engages in some sort of devotion service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Another meaning of the word avyavahita is that the interest of the devotee and the interest of the Supreme Lord are on the same level. The devotee has no interest but to fulfill the transcendental desire of the Supreme Lord. Such spontaneous service unto the Supreme Lord is transcendental and is never contaminated by the material modes of nature. These are the symptoms of pure devotion service, which is free from all contamination of material nature. 13. Yes. Yes.
So in the previous sloka, it is explained that there are different types of hearing and chanting, mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. But that does not explain in this verse.
What is not explained in this verse?
That what are those different types of hearing and chanting in different modes?
So, what is your question?
I want to understand how the mode of goodness hearing, what is passion of hearing, and what is ignorance of hearing.
Okay. Say I execute the process of Shravana. But while engaging in that process of Shravanam itself, I maintain my envy, pride, violence, anger, and I have a separatist vision. Then that hearing is in the mode of darkness. When I execute the process of hearing, same process of hearing, another type of separatist vision, and I do it in order to attain material enjoyment, fame, and opulence, then that hearing is in the mode of passion. So when I execute the process of hearing, because it is a duty, and along with that, I have to execute the results of my material duties also. And both this combination, I'm doing this hearing and this other activities, I'm doing it in order to free myself from the defects of my karmic reactions. Then that process of hearing is said to be in a mode of goodness. When I execute that process of hearing with no desire for any of the above, I only have a desire to progress towards Prema Bhakti, and I'm not executing any other process, any other activity, then that hearing is fully transcendental. So like this, each one you can work it out. Okay.
So when not having any desire means to purify ourselves, purifying heart, that is also desire. So that does not comes under mode of passion or ignorance.
No, the desire to progress from Shraddha to Prema, that is pure. Is
Okay,
that
bro.
clear?
Yeah.
The desire to progress from Shraddha to Prema, that is clear. That is pure.
Yes, bro. Bro, in the Raghunath Das Goswami story, in the past time, there Mahaprabhu also says to him that. So in that past time, in the purport, Prabhupada writes that these three categories of devotion also the same way that you should not accept anything from ignorance people, passionate people, and one is accepting things from a pure devotees, that is called goodness, mode of goodness, it is said.
You have to
So
show, in that purport, you'll have to show it in context so that we can understand what is meant by that.
Oh yes, bro. Prabhu, it was regarding accepting foodstuffs and invitations. The series of verses where that from Vishai Ranna Khaila Malin Hoeman.
Okay.
That so there a number of purports Prabhupada was saying yesterday that accepting foodstuffs from and he defined that also that he is a pious materialist. He's pious but he's attached to material enjoyment. So we are not supposed to accept from him. Otherwise, our rajogun will increase. Means whoever
Yes.
eats.
Yes.
So we were discussing. There was a question yesterday that then nowadays we are doing that only. Most of our donors, they are not full-fledged devotees in the sense they are into material enjoyment. Some are even into adharma.
Okay. So then, if you do these things, you get those effects only. So what is the confusion about?
So we are already getting the effects. So is there a way out?
Yeah, you just have to stop doing it. That's all.
but when comes the point that when one takes a position of renunciation, so he has to depend on those donations and offerings only.
You depend on others, then you're dead. You're supposed to depend on Krishna alone. Otherwise, you're finished.
No, we are depending on the Lord, but the offerings are
No,
coming
depending.
through them only,
That's
right?
okay. So if you don't go and money doesn't come from these people, and you think you're going to, it's better to just commit suicide. Then that means you have no faith in Krishna. There may be so many other ways. Anyway, we obey the instructions of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, will progress. You don't obey, you regress. It is nothing whether you claim to be his follower, you don't claim to be his follower. These things Mahaprabhu does not care. In fact, if you claim to be his follower, most probably he's going to punish you even more because you're misleading others also. All right. Text 13. सालोक्य साष्टि सामीप्य सारूप्यैकत्वमप्युत दीयमानं न गृह्णन्ति विना मत्सेवनं जना. A pure devotee does not accept any kind of liberation, salokya, sashti, samipya, sarupya, or ekatva, even though they are offered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Salokya means living on the same planet. Sashti means having the same opulence. Samipya means to be a personal associate. Sarupya means having the same bodily features. Ekatva means oneness. Sarvathadarshini. अम्बुधौ गंगांभसः गतिः इति दृष्टान्तव्यञ्जितमर्थं स्पष्टयन् उक्तलक्षण भक्तिमतां जनानां निष्कामत्वं कैमुत्यन्यायेनाह सालोक्यम्. So now he is clarifying the meaning hinted at this example, that the progress of this devotee is like the movement of the waters of the Ganges towards the ocean. And this is now clarified by pointing out that the persons who possess the sort of devotion that has been characterized here is nishkama by nature. It has no personal motive. And it is pointed out that one does not even desire salokya, sashti, samipya, sarupya, or ekatva. Salokyam maya saha ekasmin loke vasam. Salokyam means to live with me. Sashtim samana ishvariyam. Sashtim, to have equal opulences. Samipyam nikatavartitvam. Samipyam means to live close to the Lord, proximity. Sarupyam samana rupatvam, to have similar form. Ekatvam sayujya. This is, of course, impersonalistic sayujya mukti. Uta api. More than that, moreover, diyamana api na grihnanti. Even when I offer these to my own devotees, they don't accept it. Kutahat tat kamana iti bhava. So where is the question of them possessing these motives? Even I am offering it to them, they don't accept. Mat sevanam vina iti kechit grihnanti chet mat sevarthameva grihnanti iti artha. Vina mat sevanam janaha. Without my devotion service, these pure devotees do not accept this. This indicates that some do accept. So if you were to ask, how is that some accept? The idea is they are accepting it only to serve me. If salokya, sashti, samipya, sarupya are useful for serving the Lord, then they will accept it. Lord Chaitanya teaches us how to execute pure devotion service out of spontaneous love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Shikshashtaka, he prays to the Lord, "O Lord, I do not wish to gain from you any wealth, nor do I wish to have a beautiful wife, nor do I wish to have many followers. All I want from you is that in life after life, I may remain a pure devotee at your lotus feet." There is a similarity between the prayers of Lord Chaitanya and the statements of Srimad Bhagavatam. Lord Chaitanya prays in life after life, indicating that a devotee does not even desire the cessation of birth and death. The yogis and empiric philosophers desire cessation of the process of birth and death, but a devotee is satisfied even to remain in this material world and execute devotional service. It is clearly stated herein that a pure devotee does not desire ekatva, oneness with the Supreme Lord, as desired by the impersonalists, the mental speculators, and the meditators. To become one with the Supreme Lord is beyond the dream of a pure devotee. Sometimes he may accept promotion to the Vaikuntha planets to serve the Lord there, but he will never accept merging into the Brahman effulgence, which he considers worse than hellish. Such ekatva, or merging into the effulgence of the Supreme Lord, is called kaivalya, but the happiness derived from kaivalya is considered by the pure devotee to be hellish. Kaivalyam narakayate. devotee is so fond of rendering service to the Supreme Lord that the 5 kinds of liberation are not important to him. If one is engaged in pure transcendental loving service to the Lord, it's understood that he's already achieved the 5 kinds of liberation. When a devotee is promoted to the spiritual world Vaikuntha, he receives 4 kinds of facilities. One of these is Salokya, living on the same planet as the Supreme Personality. The Supreme Person in his different planetary expansions lives on innumerable Vaikuntha planets, and the chief planet is Krishna Loka. Just as within the material universe, the chief planet is the sun, in the spiritual world, the chief planet is Krishna Loka. From Krishna Loka, the bodily effulgence of Lord Krishna is distributed not only to the spiritual world, but to the material world as well. It is covered by matter, however, in the material world. In the spiritual world, there are innumerable Vaikuntha planets, and on each one, the Lord is the predominating deity. A devotee can be promoted to one such Vaikuntha planet to live with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Sarshti liberation, the opulence of the devotee is equal to the opulence of the Supreme Lord. Samipya means to be a personal associate of the Supreme Lord. In Sarupya liberation, the bodily features of the devotee are exactly like those of the Supreme Person, but for 2 or 3 symptoms found exclusively on the transcendental body of the Lord. Srivatsa, for example, the hair on the chest of the Lord particularly distinguishes him from his devotees. A pure devotee does not accept these 5 kinds of spiritual existence, even if they are offered. Even if they are offered by the Supreme Lord himself. Even if Krishna offers it to them, such pure devotees will refuse it. And he certainly does not hanker after material benefits, which are all insignificant in comparison with spiritual benefits. When Prahlad Maharaj was offered some material benefit, he stated, "My Lord, I have seen that my father achieved all kinds of material benefits, and even the demigods were afraid of his opulence. But still, in a second, you have finished his life and all his material prosperity." For a devotee, there's no question of desiring any material or spiritual prosperity. He simply aspires to serve the Lord. That is his highest happiness. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has quoted from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, chapter 4. He's quoted from a number of verses from Bhagavatam. 1.2.6, 1.7.10, 2.1.9 and 10, 3.15.48 to 49, 4.20 to 20.24, 5.14.44, 6.11.25. There's so many. Then he quotes from Damodara Ashtaka prayers in the Kartika Mahatmya section of Padma Purana. Varam deva moksham na mokshavadim va nachanyam vrineham vareshadatiha. This is all straight from Bhaktirasamrita Sindhu. This series of quotations. Quotes from Narada Pancharatra, quotes from, and also he quotes from Shikshashtakam, 4th verse. Chaitanya Chandramrita, Kaivalyam Narakayate. Quotes from King Kulashekara, Mukundamala Stotra. Okay, text 14. Saiva Bhakti Yogakhya Atyantika Udahrata Hyenati Vrajya Trigunam Madbhavayo Papadyate. By attaining the highest platform of devotional service, as I have explained, one can overcome the influence of the 3 modes of material nature and be situated in the transcendental stage, as is the Lord. Darshini, Kimiti Tarhi Bhajante. Why do they engage in this devotional service? Bhaktireva Parama Phalatvat Ityaha Saeveti. Because bhakti itself is the greatest result of engaging in bhakti. Therefore, Saeveti Atyante, Sarvante, Bhavaha Atyantika. Atyantika means the ultimate platform, the highest platform. Anu, Atyantika Shabdena Sayujyam Uchyate. But doesn't Atyantika refer to the highest platform, refer to Sayujya Mukti? Wait. Saiva Bhakti Yoga. Okay. Charama Kashtham Apanna. One has attained the highest state. That is Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Vishwanath Chakravarti. Okay, fine. Bhakti Yoga क्या? Bhakti Yoga नामा अयम ततः अपि अधिकं फलम् इति अर्थः. So even Bhakti Yoga here indicates that it is Bhakti Yoga which is actually the ultimate goal. It is superior to the goal of Sayujya Mukti. अतएव अपवर्ग शब्देन क्वचित् ब्रह्मणि निर्वाण शब्देन च अयम् उच्यते. यदुक्तं पंचमे अपवर्गश्चापि भवति. For instance, Ethan says, therefore, for instance, the word apavarga. Apavarga simply means liberation. And it sometimes refers to liberation in Brahman, sometimes it refers to nirvana, but it is all used with reference to attainment of prema bhakti. And then he gives these examples. Yaduktam Panchame, 5th canto. Avavargaschapi bhavati yoso bhagavati ananya nimitta bhakti yoga lakshanaha. And then apavarga takes place. And that apavarga is characterized as bhakti yoga which has no motive other than itself and which is focused on Bhagavan. 5.19.20. Saptamecha, 7th canto. Adhokshaja alambham iha ityado tad brahma nirvana sukham vidurbhutaha. 7.7.37. Here it is referred to as Brahma Nirvana. Depending on Lord Adhokshaja itself is understood by intelligent souls to be Brahma Nirvana. Harao Aikantikim Bhaktim Mokshamahur Manishinaha iti Puranantarecha. Some other Purana says that intelligent souls declare Aikantiki Haribhakti to be moksha. And then Gopala Tapani Upanishad, Bhaktirasya Bhajanam, Tat Iha Amutra Upadhi, Nairasyena Amushmin Manah Kalpanam, Etadevacha Naishkarmyam, Iti Gopala Tapani Shrutishcha. The Gopala Tapani Upanishad clearly states that bhakti is nothing but service to this Lord Gopala. And it is fixing the mind on him with no desire for any material designation that is attainable in this life or in the next life. This itself is called Naishkarmya. Naishkarmya is another name for liberation. Nanu Trigunam Ayat Bandhat Moksha Eva Paramaphalam Prasiddham. Question. But isn't liberation alone? Isn't liberation considered the supreme result? That is well known. It is considered superior to bondage, which is filled with the three modes of material nature. Answer, Satyam, that's true. Tattu bhaktau anushangikam. But that is just a side benefit of engaging in bhakti. And therefore, he speaks the second half of this verse. Yena bhakti yogena ati vrajya ati kramya ullankhya iti yava. When one executes this bhakti yoga, then one crosses over, one transgresses, one jumps over the three modes of material nature. Goshpadayamanatve jate tadurlanghanam anusandhanam vina eva bhavati iti bhavaha. when, okay, Macharnashrena Matrena Iva, Trigunaatmaka Samsara Sindur Goshpadaya Manatve Jate, Tadullankanam Anusandhanam Vinayava Bhavati Iti Bhavaha. So one jumps over the three modes of material nature. That is now explained. This is a reference to something which will be stated in the 10th canto. When one simply takes shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, who is actually speaking this verse, then the ocean of material existence, which consists of the three modes of material nature, contracts to the size of the water in the hoof print of a cow. It becomes very, very tiny. And just as we cross over puddles of water without even paying any attention to it. So like that, one who executes this form of Bhakti Yoga, he crosses over the entire ocean of the three modes of material nature without even thinking about it. Mad bhavaya, mad vishayaka prenne. And he attains mad bhava. He attains ecstatic devotion to me, which means he attains transcendental love for me. Sripad Shankaracharya, who was supposed to be the leader of the impersonalist school of philosophers, has admitted in the beginning of his comments on Bhagavad Gita that Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is beyond the material creation. Except for him, everything is within the material creation. Narayana Paravyakat. It is also confirmed in the Vedic literature that before the creation there was only Narayana. Neither Lord Brahma nor Lord Shiva existed. Only Narayana, or the Supreme Personality of God, Vishnu or Krishna, is always in the transcendental position beyond the influence of material creation. The material qualities of goodness, passion, and ignorance cannot affect the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, he is called Nirguna, free from all tinges of material qualities. Here, the same fact is confirmed by Lord Kapila. One who is situated in pure devotional service is transcendently situated, as is the Lord. Just as the Lord is unaffected by the influence of the material mode, so too are his pure devotees. One who is not affected by the three modes of material nature is called a liberated soul or Brahmabhuta soul. Brahmabhuta Prasannatma is the stage of liberation. Aham Brahmasmi, I am not this body. This is applicable only to the person who constantly engages in the devotion service of Krishna and is thus in the transcendental stage. He is above the influence of the three modes of material nature. It is a misconception of the impersonalists that one can worship any imaginary form of the Lord or Brahman and at the end merge in the Brahman effulgence. Of course, to merge into the bodily effulgence, Brahman of the Supreme Lord is also liberation, as explained in the previous verse. Ekatva is also liberation. But that sort of liberation is never accepted by any devotee. For qualitative oneness is immediately attained as soon as one is situated in devotional service. For a devotee, that qualitative equality, which is a result of impersonal liberation, is already attained. He does not have to try for it separately. It is clearly stated here that simply by pure devotional service, one becomes qualitatively as good as the Lord himself. Yes.
So when Shankaracharya, he says that Narayana is beyond the material creation. So what do the Mayavadis interpret this, like whether Narayana is Brahman or he is beyond Brahman or below Brahman? What they understand too?
Narayana is Saguna Brahman. He is Brahman that is mixed up. He is Saguna Brahman. He is not Nirguna Brahman.
Okay, okay. But he says it is beyond para avekta, no, it's beyond matter. No?
Yeah, they use some word jugglery to deal with all this. He is transcendental to Avyakta, but still within material. He is a product of Maya. Some way they try to work it out. Ultimately, the truth is Kevala Advaita. It is only one. Nothing more than one. Okay, let's move on. In Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur edition, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 constitute a single cluster of verses. 15. Nishevitena, Dimittena, स्वधर्मेण महीयसा क्रियायोगेन शस्तेन नातिहिंस्रेण नित्यशः. 15 to 19 is together. So I'll just keep reading portions of this and we'll switch between Prabhupada and Darshini. Asya bhaktehe anganiyaha. He then describes various elements of this nirguna bhakti, this form of devotional service. निषेवितः च असौ अनिमित्तरूपः च इति तेन पूर्वपूर्वैः शुद्धभक्तैः निषेवितः अङ्गीकृतः यः स्वधर्मः तेन इति अर्थः. A devotee must execute his prescribed duties which are glorious without material profit. Without excessive violence, one should regularly perform one's devotional activities. So here, Chakravarti Thakur says, Nishevitena, Animittena, Swadharmena, all of this refers to activities which have been accepted without any extraneous motive by pure devotees. That kind of swadharma which has been accepted by pure devotees in the past without any extraneous motive. That kind of swadharma, which is exalted, mahiyasa, glorious. Such as Smriti Shastrokta Pramanehi Mrijjaladipihi Deha Vastra Patra Adi Dravya Shuddhi Vidhi Rupaha Nirmantraka Eva Gyeyaha. And this simply refers to the regulations of purification with regard to one's body, one's clothing, one's utensils, and similar other items with earth, water, and so on the basis of evidence presented in the Smriti Shastra. And these activities are not like rituals where specific mantras are recited and so on. That should be understood. Tena mahiyasa archanadi bhakti upayogitvat prashastena. And it is glorious because this is required for engaging in archana bhakti and other forms of bhakti. Vyakhyantare matkrite tyaktat कर्माणः इति मयाधिष्ठानपि स्वकान्त संत्यज्य इत्यादि भगवदुक्ति विरोधः तथा अत्र निषेवितपदस्य वैयर्थ्यं च स्यात्. If one were to interpret this in a different way, that here swadharma actually refers to one's varnashrama duties, then that would contradict a statement which will come here in text 22 in this very chapter. It will also contradict the Lord's statement in 11.11.32, where he will say that the most exalted form of devotees, they reject even their material swadharma. Here also, then the word shevita would be meaningless. Kriya yogena, pancharatra adya ukta puja prakarena. Kriya yogena refers to forms of puja which have been described in the Pancharatra and other manuals of deity worship. Shastena, Uttama Deshadimata. And Shastena indicates that this is done in a very exalted place. Natihimsrena, Atihimsa Rahitena. Iti Atishabdena Bhagavan Mandiramarjana Lepana Tadarthan. लेपना तद अर्थ अन्नादि विविध नैवेद्य साधना आदिषु अति दुर्वार दुर्लक्ष्य सूक्ष्म जीव हिंसनम Shakapatra Moola Phala Adi Trotana Adavapi Nakshatihi iti Kyapitaha. Without excessive violence. Why does he say without excessive violence? Because when it comes to cleaning the temple of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, mopping it, and in performing various activities like offering foodstuff, gathering foodstuffs, cooking them, and so on, in order to offer to the Supreme Lord, inevitably there would be some kind of violence towards tiny living creatures. Similarly, when one plucks sharp leaves, roots, fruits, and so on, for this purpose also, and for similar activities, this violence is forgivable. It is not a major issue. Therefore, the word excessive has been used. One has to execute his prescribed duties according to his social position as a Brahma, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra. The prescribed duties of the four classes of men in human society are also described in Bhagavad Gita. The activities of Brahmanas are to control the senses and to become simple, clean, learned devotees. The Kshatriyas have the spirit for ruling. They are not afraid on the battlefield and they are charitable. The Vaishyas are the mercantile class of men, trade in commodities, protect cows, and develop agricultural produce. The Shudras or laborer class serve the higher classes because they themselves are not very intelligent. From every portion as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Swakarmanatamabhyarchya, one can serve the Supreme Lord by performing one's prescribed duty. It is not that only the Brahmanas can serve the Supreme Lord and not the Shudras. Anyone can serve the Supreme Lord by performing his prescribed duties under the direction of a spiritual master or representatives of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No one should think that his prescribed duties are inferior. A Brahmana can serve the Lord by using his intelligence, and a Kshatriya can serve the Supreme Lord using his martial arts. Just as Arjuna served Krishna. Arjuna was a warrior. He had no time to study Vedanta or other highly intellectual books. The damsels in Vrajadham were girls born of the Vaishya class and then engaged in protecting cows and producing agriculture. Krishna's foster father Nanda Maharaj and his associates were all Vaishyas. They were not at all educated, but they could serve Krishna by loving him and by offering everything to him. Similarly, there are many instances in which Chandalas or those lower than Shudras have served Krishna. Also, the sage Vidura was considered a Shudra because his mother happened to be a Shudra. There are no distinctions, for it is declared by the Lord in Bhagavad Gita that anyone engaged specifically in devotional service is elevated to the transcendental position without a doubt. Everyone's prescribed duty is glorious if it is performed in the devotional service of the Lord without desire for profit. Such loving service must be performed without reason, without impediment, and spontaneously. Krishna is lovable and one can serve him in whatever capacity one can. That is pure devotional service. See, when one moves from Swanishtha to Parinishtita to Nirapeksha, that mode of spiritual progress is also considered to be progress towards pure devotional service. In fact, that is also noted in the 11th canto. Tavat karmani kurvita, until one comes to the point of having absolute faith in Kevala Bhakti, one must execute his material duties. So, in other words, one should go on increasing his engagement in Navavidha Bhakti. So, until one comes to the point of Kevala Bhakti, which is the cherished goal for all those interested in pure service to Krishna. So there's no contradiction between what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says and what Prabhupada is saying. Because ultimately one will come to this point of what Vishwanath Chakravarti is referring to. Another significant phrase in this verse is Natihim Srena, with minimum violence or sacrifice of life. Even if a devotee has to commit violence, it should not be done beyond what is necessary. Sometimes the question is put before us. You ask us not to eat meat, but you're eating vegetables. Do you think that is not violence? The answer is that eating vegetables is violence. And vegetarians are also committing violence against other living entities because vegetables also have life. Non-devotees are killing cows, goats, and so many other animals for eating purposes, and a devotee who is vegetarian is also killing. But here, significantly, it is stated that every living entity has to live by killing another entity. That is the law of nature. Jivo jivasya jivanam. One living entity is a life for another living entity. But for a human being, that violence should be committed only as much as necessary. A human being is not to eat anything which is not offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yajnashishtashinas Santah. Bhagavad Gita, 3rd chapter. One becomes freed from all sinful reactions by eating foodstuffs which are offered to Yajna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A devotee, therefore, eats only prasad or foodstuffs offered to the Supreme Lord. And Krishna says that when a devotee offers him foodstuff from the vegetable kingdom with devotion, he eats that. A devotee is to offer to Krishna foodstuffs prepared from vegetables. If the Supreme Lord wants foodstuffs prepared from animal food, the devotee could offer this, but he does not order to do that. We have to commit violence. That is a natural law. We should not, however, commit violence extravagantly, but only as much as ordered by the Lord. Arjuna engaged in the art of killing, and all the killing is, of course, violence. He killed the enemy simply on Krishna's order. In the same way, if we commit violence as it is necessary by the order of the Lord, that is called na atihimsa, not excessive violence. We cannot avoid violence. For we are put into a conditional life in which we have to commit violence. But we should not commit more violence than necessary or than ordered by the Supreme Personality of God. 16. Madhishnya darshana sparsha pujastutyabhivandanai bhuteshu madbhavanaya satvena sangamena cha. A devotee should regularly see my statues in the temple, touch my lotus feet, and offer worshipable paraphernalia and prayer. He should see in the spirit of renunciation from the mode of goodness and see every living entity as spiritual. Satvena, dhairyena, asangena, dussangatyagena, asangamena. Does it come again? Okay, just one minute. Let me check. This is the Srishta edition. Satvena asangamena cha. Krishna Chakravarti Thakur. Satvena dhairyena asangena, dussangatyagena. Must be some variant reading. Satvena, dhairyena, by the mode of goodness, means with patience, with a sober nature. Sangena, dussangatyagena, with detachment, means by abandoning evil association, dussanga. Temple worship is one of the duties of a devotee. It is especially recommended for neophytes, but those who are advanced should not refrain from temple worship. There is a distinction in the manner a neophyte and an advanced devotee appreciate the Lord's presence in the temple. A neophyte considers the Archa Vigraha, the statue of the Lord, to be different from the original personality of God. He considers it a representation of the Supreme Lord in the form of a deity. But an advanced devotee accepts the deity in the temple as the Supreme Personality of God. He does not see any difference between the original form of the Lord and the statue or Archa form of the Lord in the temple. This is the vision of a devotee whose devotional service is in the highest stage of bhava or love of God, whereas a neophyte's worship in the temple is a matter of routine duty. So when one is on the platform of sadhana, then he considers that Krishna is present in the deity. But when one comes to the platform of bhava bhakti, prema bhakti, then it is different. Then he directly perceives the Supreme Lord himself as the deity. This is noted by Jiva Goswami in his 11th canto commentary. This point comes there. Temple deity worship is one of the functions of a devotee. He goes regularly to see the deity, nicely decorated and with veneration and respect. He touches the lotus feet of the Lord and presents offerings of worship such as fruits, flowers, and prayers. At the same time, to advance in devotional service, a devotee should see other living entities as spiritual sparks parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. A devotee is to offer respect to every entity that has a relationship with the Lord, because every living entity originally has a relationship with the Lord as part and parcel. A devotee should try to see all living entities on the same equal level of spiritual existence. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Pandita, one who is learned, sees equally a very learned Brahmana, a Shudra, a hog, a dog, and a cow. He does not see the body, which is only an outward dress. He does not see the dress of a Brahmana, that of a cow, or of a hog. He sees the spiritual spark, part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. If a devotee does not see every living entity as part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, he is considered Prakrita Bhakta, a materialistic devotee. He's not completely situated on the spiritual platform, rather, he is in the lowest stage of devotion. He does, however, show all respect to the deity. Although a devotee sees all living entities on the level of spiritual existence, he is not interested in associating with everyone. Simply because a tiger is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord does not mean that we embrace him because of his spiritual relationship with the Supreme Lord. We must associate only with persons who have developed Krishna consciousness. We should befriend and offer special respect to persons who are developed in Krishna consciousness. Other living entities are undoubtedly part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, but because their consciousness is still covered and not developed in Krishna consciousness, we should renounce their association. It is said by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur that even if one is a Vaishnava, if he is not of good character, his company should be avoided, although he may be offered the respect of a Vaishnava. Anyone who accepts Vishnu as the Supreme Personality of Godhead is accepted as a Vaishnava, but a Vaishnava is expected to develop all the good qualities of the demigods. So one who accepts the principle of Vishnu Sarvottamattva, that Vishnu is the Supreme Being, he is a Vaishnava, and he should be honored because he has accepted that principle. And he is trying to please Lord Vishnu, and therefore he should be honored for that. But since he is not developed in good morals and so on, one should not associate with him. Vandya, Sevya, Darshaniyascha, na Sangartham Upadeya. Such persons, they can be respected. They can be served from a distance. Vandya, Sevya, Darshaniyascha. One can see them from a distance also. But they are not fit for Sangha. Sangha means Dadati Pratigranati Gokhimakyati Prichadi Bhunte Vojete Chaiva Shadvidam Priti Lakshanam. This is Sangha. So this should be abandoned. The exact meaning of the word Sattvena is given by Sridhar Swami as being synonymous with Dhairyena or patience. One must perform devotion service with great patience. One should not give up the execution of devotion service because one or two attempts have not been successful. One must continue. Sri Rupa Goswami also confirms that one should be very enthusiastic and execute devotion service with patience and confidence. Patience is necessary for developing the confidence that Krishna will certainly accept me because I am engaging in devotional service. One has only to execute service according to the rules and regulations to ensure success. Okay, 70. Mahatam Bahumanena Deenanam Anukampaya Maitriya Chaivatma Tulyeshu Yamena Niyamena Cha. The pure devotee should execute devotional service by giving the greatest respect to the spiritual master and the acharyas. He should be compassionate to the poor and make friendship with persons who are his equals. But all his activities should be executed under regulation and with control of the senses. With great respect to the great souls, with compassion to the poor, with friendship to persons who are equals, with control of the senses, with regulation, and so on. In Bhagavad Gita, 13th chapter, it is clearly stated that one should execute devotion service in advance on the path of spiritual knowledge by accepting the Acharya. Acharya Upasanam. One should worship an Acharya, a spiritual master who knows things as they are. The spiritual master must be in the disciplic succession from Krishna. The predecessors of the spiritual master are his spiritual master, his grand spiritual master, his great grand spiritual master, and so on, to form the disciplic succession of acharyas. It is recommended herewith that all the acharyas be given the highest respect. It is stated, Gurushu Naramatihi. Gurushu means unto the acharyas, and Naramatihi means thinking like a common man. To think of the Vaishnavas, the devotees, as belonging to a particular caste or community. To think of the acharyas as ordinary men, or to think of the deity in the temple as being made of stone, wood, or metal is condemned. Uh, this is a translation of a famous statement from Padma Purana. Niyamena, one should offer the greatest respect to the acharyas according to the standard regulations. Prabhupada has connected these words, Yamena and Niyamena, with the three of them. So, in other words, through sense control and in line with scriptural regulations, one should offer the greatest respect to the great souls, be compassionate to the poor, and be friendly to persons who are equal. A devotee should also be compassionate to the poor. This does not refer to those who are poverty stricken materially. According to devotional vision, a man is poor if he is not in Krishna consciousness. A man may be very rich materially, but if he is not Krishna conscious, he is considered poor. On the other hand, many acharyas, such as Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, used to live beneath trees every night. Superficially, it appeared that they were poverty stricken, but from their writings, we can understand that in spiritual life, they were the richest personalities. A devotee shows compassion to those poor souls who are wanting in spiritual knowledge by enlightening them in order to elevate them to Krishna consciousness. That is one of the duties of a devotee. He should also make friendship with persons who are on an equal level with himself or who have the same understanding that he does. For a devotee, there is no point in making friendships with ordinary persons. He should make friendship with other devotees so that by discussing among themselves, they may elevate one another on the path of spiritual understanding. This is called Ishta Goshti. In Bhagavad Gita, there is reference to Bodhayantah Parasparam, discussing among themselves. Generally, pure devotees utilize their valuable time in chanting and discussing various activities of Lord Krishna or Lord Chaitanya among themselves. There are innumerable books such as the Puranas, Mahabharata, Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and Upanishads, which contain countless subjects for discussion among two devotees or more. Friendship should be cemented between persons with mutual interests and understanding. Such persons are said to be Sajati, of the same caste. It should have been Sajatiya. That is the exact expression. Sajatiya Shaye Snigdhe Sadhu Sanga Swatah Vare. It should be Sajatiye. Mistranscribed. The devotee should avoid a person whose character is not fixed in the standard understanding. Even though he may be a Vaishnava or a devotee of Krishna, if his character is not correctly representative, then he should be avoided. Because if you mix with him, then you will also develop his character defect. And moreover, that fellow is going to constantly say that I am a pure devotee, I am proper. And you will also start imagining that this part of pure devotional service to be like that. So therefore, so that this mess doesn't occur, simply avoid dealing with all these people. One should steadily control the senses and the mind and strictly follow the rules and regulations, and he should make friendship with persons of the same standard. 18. Adhyatmika anushravarnan nama sankirtanach me arjavenarya sangena nirrahankriya tatha. A devotee should always try to hear about spiritual matters and should always utilize his time in chanting the holy name of the Lord. His behavior should always be straightforward and simple. And although he is not envious but friendly to everyone, he should avoid the company of persons who are not spiritually advanced. Adhyatmikasya antahkarana bhavasya doshasya gunasya cha anushravana antahkaranasya bhakto pravartana tad dosha guna avashya shrotavya. Danta. What is it? Dantadi. Right. Dambhadi. Correct. Dambhadi. Dambhadi. Antःकरणदोषस्य स्वस्मिन् वर्तमानत्वज्ञाने सति not dantam, is dambham. Dambham. महद् उपासया जयेद् इत्यादौ मितौ ताः प्रवर्तेरन् इत्येतदर्थं च आध्यात्मिक अनुश्रवणात्. Hearing about spiritual matters. Hearing about spiritual matters. Hear about spiritual matters here refers to hearing about the defects and the excellences that are found in the mind. One should learn about these. In other words, in order to engage the mind in bhakti, one should hear about the good and bad features of the mind. That means when one understands that pride and other defects of the mind are found in one, then the devotee should consider the scriptural injunction that by worshipping a great soul, then one becomes freed from pride, and so on. There are so many different procedures. So then those devotees should execute those procedures by which all these defects of the mind will be removed, and by which the excellences in the mind come about. मद विषयक श्रवण कीर्तनादरेव धर्मानुष्ठेय यस्य तस्य पुरुषस्य आश्रयः मनः. What is that? That must be next verse or what? What is this? Mad Vishayaka Shravana Kirtanadeva Dharma. Mad Dharma. Okay, let's see it. Okay, let me read this. In order to advance in spiritual understanding, one has to hear from authentic sources about spiritual knowledge. One can understand the reality of spiritual life by following strict regulative principles and by controlling the senses. To have control, it is necessary that one be non-violent and truthful, refrain from stealing, abstain from sex life, and possess only that which is absolutely necessary for keeping the body and soul together. One should not eat more than necessary. He should not collect more paraphernalia than necessary. He should not talk unnecessarily with common men. And he should not follow the rules and regulations without purpose. Atyahara prayasasya prajalpo nivagra janasangasya laulyakya shadbir bhaktir vinashyati. Should follow the rules and regulations so that he may actually make advancement. There are 18 qualifications mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, among which is simplicity. One should be without pride, one should not demand unnecessary respect from others, and one should be non-violent. Amanitvam adamhitvam ahimsa. One should be very tolerant and simple. One should accept the spiritual master, and one should control the senses. They are mentioned here and in Bhagavad Gita as well. One should hear from authentic sources how to advance in spiritual life. Such instructions should be taken from the Acharya and should be assimilated. It is especially mentioned here, Nama Sankirtanacha. One should chant the holy names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare. Either individually or with others. Lord Chaitanya has given special stress to chanting of these holy names of the Lord as a basic principle of spiritual advancement. Another word used here is arjavena, meaning without diplomacy. A devotee should not make plans out of self-interest. Of course, preachers sometimes have to make some plan to execute the mission of the Lord, the proper guide. But regarding personal self-interest, a devotee should always be without diplomacy, and he should avoid the company of persons who are not advancing in spiritual life. He should avoid the association of devotees who are diplomatic and so on. Another word is Arya. Aryans are persons who are advancing in knowledge of Krishna consciousness as well as in material prosperity. The difference between the Aryan and non-Aryan, the Sura and Asura, is in their standards of spiritual advancement. Association with persons who are not spiritually advanced is forbidden. Lord Chaitanya advised, Asat Tyag. One should avoid persons who are attached to the temporary. Asat is one who is too materially attached, who is not a devotee of the Lord, or who is too attached to women or enjoyable material things. Such a person, according to Vaishnava philosophy, is a persona non grata. A devotee should not be proud of his acquisitions. The symptoms of a devotee are meekness and humility. Although spiritually very advanced, he will always remain meek and humble, as Kaviraj Goswami and all the other Vaishnavas have taught us by personal example. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught that one should be humbler than the grass on the street and more tolerant than the tree. One should not be proud or falsely puffed up. In this way, one will surely advance in spiritual life. Okay, I'll stop with that. Amcha kalpadurvyascha kripasindhubhyo vacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.